A strong hold over current affairs is your way to succeed in the UPSC Civil Services examination. Brace yourself and get detailed coverage of relevant news both nationally and internationally. With the monthly current affairs revision program starting from 26th October at 5 p.m. Enroll today and elevate your current affairs knowledge with comprehensive coverage of current affairs compiled through relevant sources such as the Hindu Indian Express, Economic Times, PIB Yojana, and others. Expert support and personalized mentoring. Comprehensive assessment through MCQs and mains-oriented questions.
Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Supreme Court upholds accessibility for PwDs as a human and fundamental right. The State of Food and Agriculture 2024 report released by FAO. Concerns raised with declining fertility rates in some states. Lead exposure causes $6 trillion in economic losses from premature cardiovascular disease mortality, says study. First successful clinical demonstration of RNA editing in humans conducted. Participatory approaches in AI development and governance paper released by IIT Madras. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court of India has upheld accessibility for persons with disabilities, or PwDs, as a human and fundamental right. This decision came from a 3-judge bench in the Rajiv Rastogi versus Union of India and others case, where it was confirmed that the right of disabled individuals to access environments, services, and opportunities is fundamental. This judgment is significantly grounded in a report by the Center for Disability Studies, NALSAR University of Law, which advocates for the social model of disability. Now, this social model focuses on societal changes aimed at promoting inclusion and equality for PwDs, removing barriers that restrict their full participation. Let's dive into the issues that PwDs face as highlighted in the CDS NALSAR report. First, accessibility barriers remain prevalent in many public spaces, including courts, prisons, schools, and public transport. Additionally, there is the challenge of intersectionality and compounded discrimination. Overlap of multiple disabilities like caste, gender, etc. with disabilities faced by PwDs compounds discrimination and marginalization. Furthermore, inconsistencies in the legal framework add to these challenges. For instance, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities RPWD Act 2016 mandates strict compliance with non-negotiable rules, while Rule 15 of the RPWD Rules 2017 prescribes only self-regulatory guidelines. Now, coming to the key highlights of the judgment. The court declared that Rule 15 Clause 1 is ultra vires or beyond the legal powers of the legislative intent behind the mandatory compliance expected under the RPWD Act. The Supreme Court also outlined essential principles of accessibility that must be considered, including universal design, comprehensive inclusion across disabilities, integration of assistive technology, and stakeholder consultation. The court recommended a two-pronged approach to ensure accessibility. First, accessibility must be integrated into existing institutions and activities. Second, new infrastructure and future initiatives should be designed with accessibility in mind. Moving forward, let's discuss some notable initiatives in accessibility for PwDs. India has embraced a rights-based approach through the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, which aligns with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Article 9 of this convention further enshrines accessibility as a key aspect. Additionally, the Accessible India campaign or Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan has been launched to improve accessibility across the country. Let's also note some important judicial pronouncements in this context. In State of Himachal Pradesh versus Umed Ram Sharma 1986, the Supreme Court recognized accessibility as a part of the right to life under Article 21. Later, in Disabled Rights Group versus Union of India 2017, the court directed the reservation of seats in educational institutions for PwDs, further advancing their rights. This landmark judgment and the initiatives taken signify a vital step towards a more inclusive society, where accessibility for persons with disabilities is recognized not just a necessity, but as a fundamental right.
In our next news, the Food and Agriculture Organization or FAO has released its State of Food and Agriculture 2024 report, shedding light on the hidden costs embedded in global agri-food systems, the journey food takes from farm to table. The report emphasizes the need for a value-driven transformation to address these costs, which are often overlooked but have far-reaching consequences. So what exactly are hidden costs? Hidden costs refer to external costs or economic losses that arise due to market or policy failures. Now, let's take a look at the key findings of the report. The report outlines significant findings on the global hidden costs of agri-food systems, with industrial and diversifying agri-food systems contributing the most. In fact, they are responsible for around $5.9 trillion in hidden costs as of 2020 PPP dollars. The majority of these costs are linked to health, particularly non-communicable diseases. One of the primary drivers of these hidden costs is unhealthy dietary patterns, such as low intake of whole grains and high sodium consumption, which account for 70% of all quantified hidden costs. Additionally, the report highlights social costs, such as undernourishment and poverty, as well as environmental costs, like the emission of greenhouse gases. Focusing on India, the report notes that the country's total hidden costs amount to approximately $1.3 trillion annually, placing it as the third largest contributor to hidden costs globally behind China and the USA. These costs are primarily driven by unhealthy dietary habits, similar to global trends. To address these hidden costs, the FAO report offers several recommendations for transforming agri-food value chains. For industrial agri-food systems, which have long value chains and high levels of urbanization, the FAO suggests a shift to a more holistic approach. This includes upgrading food-based dietary guidelines to an agri-food systems approach, implementing mandatory nutrient labeling and certifications, and launching information campaigns to raise awareness. For traditional agri-food systems, characterized by short value chains and lower urbanization, the recommendation is to complement productivity-enhancing interventions with environmental and dietary measures. This approach is aimed at preventing an increase in environmental footprints. India, as one of the countries heavily impacted by these hidden costs, has been taking several initiatives to reform its agri-food systems. To promote sustainable farming practices, India has launched schemes like the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, Per Drop More Crop or PDMC, and the National Bamboo Commission or NBM. These initiatives aim to make farming more efficient and eco-friendly. On the infrastructure front, the government has introduced the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund and the Agricultural Marketing Infrastructure or AMI scheme. Additionally, India is focused on boosting farmers' welfare through initiatives like the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi or PM Kisan, and the formation and promotion of farmer producer organizations or FPOs, etc.
Moving on, let's look at an emerging issue of concern in India: declining fertility rates in some states. Recently, Chief Ministers of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu raised concerns over slowing population growth in their respective states. Starting with some context on fertility rates in India, the National Family Health Survey NFHS 5 conducted from 2019 to 21 reported a drop in India's total fertility rate or TFR to 2.0. TFR refers to the average number of children born to women during their childbearing years. This 2.0 figure is below the replacement level fertility of 2.1, which is needed for a population to maintain its size across generations. However, this decline is not uniform across India. Southern states and some smaller northern states have seen a sharper decrease in TFR. For instance, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh report TFRs of 1.4 and 1.5 respectively, while Uttar Pradesh and Bihar have much higher rates of 2.7 and 3 respectively. Now, let's examine the factors behind these declining fertility rates. Family planning has played a significant role with the implementation of policies and a rise in demand for family planning among married women, up from 66% in 2015 to 16 to 76% in 2019 to 21 as per NFHS 5. Education and empowerment of women have also impacted fertility rates, as more women participating in the labor market face higher opportunity cost for having more children. Additionally, rising living costs, including housing, have become barriers to expanding families. However, declining fertility rates bring with them certain concerns. First, an aging population places significant social and economic pressures on the government, increasing the need for pension and health services. This shift also raises the old age dependency ratio, which can economically and emotionally burden young workers. Politically, there's the potential loss of representation for states with slower population growth. With the current freeze on parliamentary seats expiring in 2026, states with lower population growth could lose representation in the parliament. Finally, labor shortages may become an issue in the future, a challenge we have seen in countries like Japan. To summarize, declining fertility rates reflect social and economic changes in India, but they also bring important challenges that demand attention. As India progresses, balancing these demographic shifts will be key.
A groundbreaking study reveals that lead exposure is responsible for an astounding $6 trillion in economic losses, primarily due to premature deaths from cardiovascular disease. This alarming finding was highlighted in a recent Lancet Public Health study titled Removing Lead from the Global Economy. So what exactly is lead and how does it contribute to such significant harm? Lead, symbolized as Pb, is a soft, dense metal with a low melting point and corrosion resistance. It doesn't react with water, making it unique, and it's highly malleable and ductile. Lead is naturally found in the Earth's crust, usually in ores containing other metals like zinc, silver, and copper. This toxic metal is widely used in the production of batteries, especially for automobiles and inverters, as well as in ammunition, metal products like pipes, and more. Lead is also found in various industrial sources such as smelting units and paints, which are significant contributors to lead poisoning. However, lead's presence in the environment is highly problematic due to its toxic nature. The Lancet study points to severe health impacts of lead exposure. It significantly reduces intelligence quotient or IQ points and increases the risk of heart diseases, kidney failures, and premature deaths. In fact, lead exposure is linked to 5.5 million premature adult deaths from cardiovascular disease and 765 million lost IQ points among children. What's more, the toxic effects start early. Neurodevelopmental damage begins in the womb, as fetal exposure to lead in maternal plasma can be harmful. The impact of lead is not just limited to human health. It also affects the natural world. Lead pollution in soil can drastically reduce plant life, as shown by the study's findings. An increase in lead concentration in soil from 0 to 1000 parts per million or ppm reduces wheat seed germination rates from 98% to 50% and leads to a 44% reduction in biomass. Birds are also vulnerable to lead poisoning, suffering from anemia, brain damage, and difficulty flying, landing, and walking, all of which contribute to higher mortality rates among bird populations. In response to this global issue, several initiatives have been implemented to control lead poisoning. One of the key efforts is the Global Alliance to Eliminate Lead Paint, a global initiative led by the World Health Organization and the United Nations Environment Programme or UNEP. WHO has also developed guidelines on the clinical management of lead exposure, and a global ban on leaded petrol has been enacted in many countries. But what more can be done to reduce the harmful impact of lead? Experts recommend several actions. They suggest that a global political structure be funded by states in proportion to the amount of lead they mine and export. Additionally, lead should be subject to progressive taxation, which would increase year by year to incentivize a shift towards safer substitutes. Finally, governments are urged to classify lead as toxic waste, ensuring it is safely disposed of rather than recycled with the larger emissions that often accompany such practices. As the study demonstrates, the economic and health costs of lead exposure are immense.
In a groundbreaking development in biotechnology, Wave Life Sciences, a US-based company, has announced the first successful clinical demonstration of RNA editing to treat alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency or AATD. This inherited disorder leads to the buildup of the alpha-1 antitrypsin protein, which can severely impact the liver and lungs. So, what exactly is RNA editing? RNA editing is a process that modifies the genetic information within RNA sequences through insertion, deletion, or substitution of genetic material. In this case, scientists used a technique called adenosine deaminases, acting on RNA or ADAR, along with guide RNA or gRNA. The guide RNA, which are small RNA molecules, direct the editing machinery by base pairing with specific regions of the mRNA for modification. Now, let's break down the process. RNA consists of 4 building blocks: adenine, A, guanine, G, uracil, U, and cytosine, C. The ADAR enzyme converts adenosine in the mRNA to inosine, which mimics the function of guanosine. Adenosine and guanosine are nucleosides combining A and G with ribose respectively. So, when the cell detects inosine in place of adenosine, it triggers a response to correct the mismatch, thus restoring the mRNA's function. The cell then starts producing the normal proteins needed for proper function. However, this technique is not without challenges. One major issue is the lack of specificity. The guide RNA may cause both targeted and non-targeted changes in the mRNA, potentially leading to side effects. Additionally, RNA editing is still in its nascent stage, and to sustain its therapeutic effects, repeated treatments may be required. Now let's quickly compare RNA editing to DNA editing. While DNA editing makes permanent changes to genetic material, RNA editing results in temporary changes that may fade over time. This makes RNA editing a safer and more flexible approach since it avoids the risk of irreversible errors that can occur with DNA editing. Furthermore, RNA editing generally has a lower risk of triggering undesirable immune or allergic reactions, as it relies on ADAR enzymes already naturally present in the human body, whereas DNA editing involves bacterial proteins that can cause reactions. To sum up, this successful RNA editing demonstration marks a significant milestone in the treatment of genetic disorders like AATD, with promising potential for further applications.
Moving ahead, a new paper released by IIT Madras highlights the importance of participatory approaches in the development and governance of artificial intelligence, or AI. The paper explores how involving a wider range of stakeholders in the creation of AI systems can not only improve the outcomes of AI algorithms, but also enhance fairness in their deployment. Now, what is participatory AI? Participatory AI, or PAI, refers to the inclusion of diverse stakeholders beyond just technology developers in the creation of AI systems. The core principles of PAI are derived from the concept of participatory governance, which aims to involve all affected parties in decision-making processes. This approach is gaining traction as AI technologies continue to play a major role in sectors like law enforcement, with tools such as facial recognition technology being deployed by both public and private actors. So, what are the benefits of participatory AI? Let's have a look. PAI can help counter unilateral top-down decision-making in AI development, addressing potential contentious breakdowns in implementation. Next, inclusion and fairness. By involving diverse groups in the AI development process, PAI can help mitigate risks such as bias or discriminatory outcomes, ensuring that AI systems do not unfairly disadvantage certain communities. The next benefit is feedback loops. PAI encourages continuous feedback after AI systems are deployed. This helps in flagging technical glitches and post-deployment impact assessment. Another benefit is enhanced trustworthiness. By ensuring transparency and accountability, PAI can help reduce errors such as false positives or false negatives in AI systems, causing a more enthusiastic adoption of such systems. However, the paper also identifies several challenges in implementing PAI. First, co-optation. There is a risk that powerful actors could dominate the process, using their influence to serve their own vested interests rather than the broader public good. Second, limited participation of non-experts. Existing AI governance models often only involve experts such as industry representatives, bureaucrats, and select civil society groups. Third, participatory washing and tokenism. Some organizations may only engage in participatory processes for formal compliance, without genuinely incorporating stakeholder input into decision making. And finally, transparency paradox. Sharing information about AI algorithms can also lead to misuse by malicious actors. Moving on to the idea of participatory governance in abroad and India. The Land Acquisition Act of 2013 included a social impact assessment in collaboration with affected families, giving them a voice in land acquisition decisions. Similarly, the Forest Rights Act of 2006 empowers local communities by recognizing the Gram Sabha as a statutory institution, emphasizing participatory and democratic processes. Internationally, the Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefits Sharing mandates that benefits arising from the use of traditional knowledge must be shared with indigenous communities, further illustrating the value of participatory governance. The personality in news for today is Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He is in news as National Education Day has been celebrated on November 11 since 2008 in honor of Maulana Azad's birth anniversary. Born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia in 1888, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was a noted educationist, polyglot and intellectual, and he played a crucial role in shaping India's post-independence education system. Moreover, he became the first education minister of independent India, serving from 1947 to 1958. Maulana Azad was an active political leader who served as the president of the Indian National Congress during two significant sessions, the 1923 Delhi Special Session and the 1940 Ramgarh Session. Azad also led the All India Khilafat Committee during the Khilafat movement between 1920 and 1924, advocating for the rights of Muslims in India. He also participated in the Dandi March in 1930 and the Quit India movement of 1942. He was also a member of the Constituent Assembly from the United Provinces. Maulana Azad played a pivotal role in establishing key education institutions in India, including the Indian Council for Cultural Relations or ICCR and the University Grants Commission or UGC. For his contributions, he was awarded with Bharat Ratna in 1992 posthumously. Through his actions, he showcased the values of patriotism, integrity, tolerance, etc.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Various reports suggest rising instances of salad bar extremism in some Western countries. Salad bar extremism is a new kind of extremism where the primary motivation behind violent attacks is a combination of beliefs and views rather than a coherent ideology. It is also called composite extremism or mixed, unstable or unclear MUU extremism. The third edition of the Joint Military Exercise Austra-Hind recently commenced in Pune. Austra-Hind is an annual military exercise held alternately in India and Australia, aimed at enhancing interoperability between Indian and Australian militaries for the joint subconventional operations in semi-urban, semi-desert terrains conducted under Chapter 7 of the UN Mandate. The World Urban Forum or WUF concluded its 12th edition in Cairo, Egypt, with the adoption of a 10-point Cairo Call to Action. Established by the UN in 2001, WUF is the leading global conference on sustainable urbanization. The Cairo Call to Action emphasizes urgent measures to address the global housing crisis, promote inclusive shared urban spaces, and improve urban planning to achieve better outcomes at the local level. A Eurasian otter was spotted for the first time in Pune, Maharashtra. This species is one of the 3 otter types found in India, along with the smooth-coated otter and the small-clawed otter. Its distribution spans across Europe, Asia, and Africa. The Union Minister of Power, Housing and Urban Affairs recently launched the EV as a Service program by Convergence Energy Services Limited (CESL), a subsidiary of Energy Efficiency Services Limited. This initiative follows the launch of the PM E-Drive scheme aimed at accelerating India's transition to electric mobility. The Biotechnology Research and Innovation Council, or BRIC, has completed its first year since formation. It was established by the Department of Biotechnology, or DBT, Ministry of Science and Technology, by subsuming 14 autonomous institutions. Its primary objectives include promoting cutting-edge biotechnology research in alignment with national priorities. Recently, the QS World University Rankings Asia 2025 was released. It assesses 984 institutions covering 25 countries in Eastern, Southern, Southeastern, and Central Asia. Quacquarelli-Simons, or QS, offers data, expertise, and solutions for the global higher education sector. A recent study found an association between the inactivated COVID-19 vaccine, CoronaVac, and thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, or TTP. TTP is a rare blood disorder in which thrombi, blood clots, are formed in small blood vessels throughout the body. Clots can limit or restrict the flow of oxygen-rich blood to the organs including brain, kidneys, and heart. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, please visit the provided links in the description below.